Good evening. Our big story at 10, Decision Day in Illinois, and results from today's primary are rolling in.
Yes, we've been looking at them ever since polls closed at 7. Races across the state being called by the Associated Press and news organizations. Here's what you need to know at this hour.
And let's get straight to those election results tonight, starting with the Illinois Democratic presidential primary. You can see President Joe Biden winning that already, 91% of the vote there. We pretty much knew that that was going to be President Joe Biden taking that one there. And moving to the Illinois Republican presidential primary, of course, we know that President Donald Trump, the presumptive nominee as well. But now let's dig deeper into voter turnout and the races impacting our local communities. William Ingalls joins us from our election center with our exclusive tracking software. William, what story is being told at this hour?
The story that I'm definitely paying attention to is that the Illinois 17th Congressional District is not going to keep me up past my bedtime tonight. The last few elections have definitely seen this one go through the night. And in fact, not even called until the next day, both in 2020 and 2022. But this is primary day, and so far, Joe McGraw, the expected nominee here, in fact, called by the AP and NBC News, winning by a pretty healthy 30 points so far with about 70% of the vote in. We talked about how important it was to look at Rock Island County as well as Winnebago County. We'll look there in just a moment, but a very strong margin here in Rock Island County, especially considering that that is Scott Kroll's home territory there. So a strong performance there. Later on in the show, we're going to talk about how it's going to be really hard to draw any type of conclusions out of this race because of voter turnout. But there are some other things I want to get to here. The 11th district, this was just called by NBC News just a little bit ago. Jerry Evans now projected winner here for the Republican side in the 11th district, and he's going to be going against the incumbent here, Bill Foster, going for his 8th term in office. Bill Foster rolling to a victory here. He had won his previous primaries by about 30 points when he did have a primary race. He's expanding that margin tonight. A very strong victory for him here. Let's specifically look at Belvidere and Boone County. Not a ton of votes out of here. We're still waiting on a lot of them right now, about 50% of the votes in right now, but the votes that are in are being dominated by Bill Foster. Let's also take a peek at the 14th Congressional District. James Martyr, the one here taking home the AP and NBC News projection here, taking about 80% of the vote. This is one that I think a seat that will be a little bit more contested than maybe would have been expected. Lauren, for spacing on the last name, Lauren Underwood, I beg your pardon, is the Democratic incumbent right now, looking for her 3rd term. She did not face a challenger in her primary, but both the races she has been in the general election have been decided by less than 10 points. So the question for James Martyr, he has been running for office since 2016. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the first time he has won a primary. He definitely has name recognition. He's been running for office about 8 years now. The question is whether that name recognition is going to motivate people to come to the polls. That has been, at the very least, somewhat competitive here. 9 points is nothing to sneeze at if you're Underwood, but we're going to be talking about whether or not Republicans can get people to the polls, and getting to the polls is going to be the big story of this election, and especially in this primary so far. We'll talk about it, like I said, after the break, but turnout was a complete disaster today. It is not just a disaster in the 14th district. It's not just a disaster in the 17th district. It was a disaster statewide, including in our area as we look at the full presidential picture. I mean, we had 1.5 million votes in the 2020 primary, and you can see right now we are not going to maybe even get to 1 million. So we're going to be talking a lot more about that, Brittany, after the break, because voter turnout, I think, will be the big story that we're looking at when polls close and this election gets certified.